Let the bass kick. Let the bass kick.
Think about it. 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 Think about it.
Good morning to this Board of County Commissioners meeting for Tuesday, October 18. Our first order of business is to call this meeting to order, and we do have all 5 commissioners present on the dais. So let's move to item number 1, which is the invocation. And Dee Burt from Radiant Church will give that this morning. Please, everybody, stand and pray in your own way. Thank you for that nice prayer. Mr. Browerman, if you would lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
The flag of the United States of America, republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible.
All right, thank you. Let's continue with the agenda. Item number 3.
Item number 3 is staff emergency items. I'm unaware of any staff emergency items.
Very good. Item number 4.
Item number 4 is changes, postponements, notice of next meeting. I'm unaware of any changes or postponements to today's agenda. The next meeting will be Thursday, October 20th at 9 o'clock.
All right, very good. Thank you. And item number 5.
Item number 5 is the consent calendar consisting of items 5A through 5F3.
Very good. Is there anybody in the audience that wishes to comment on any of the items on the consent calendar at this time? All right, seeing none. Is there anybody online? No? Very good. I'll bring this up to the dais. Any questions from any of the commissioners for any of the consent items? All right, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Well, I may have had a comment. I apologize.
Please proceed.
I know that there's been some question as to why some of our paving efforts have stopped by at least 2 or 3 of my constituents. And I did want to say sometimes it's because we have to approve more money. And so I believe in here are included the contracts to get some more money so that we can finish up our paving. So I wanted to point that out to at least the 3 constituents I've had calling, wondering when it's going to happen. Sometimes it's just us. So that's what happens towards the end of the year. So, and I was really fascinated to find we have a method to pave roads even though it's about ready to snow, because the state has approved a contract or approved a method to pave roads even when it gets very cold. So I was worried about paving roads this late in the season, especially in Woodmore. Thank you. That's it. So I'll move approval of our consent calendar, items 5A through F3.
Second.
Very good. We have a motion and a second, and I don't think we'll have any further questions, but I'll just offer any questions or comments from any of the commissioners before we vote. All right, hearing none, let's go ahead and proceed with that vote. Commissioner Williams.
Aye.
Commissioner Geithner.
Aye.
Commissioner Gonzalez.
Aye.
Commissioner Bremer.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. The consent calendar passes 5-0. Let us move on to item number 6, and I do see Mr. Browerman, you're in the audience. Do you have any comments you'd like to make?
Thank you, Chairman Van Wert, County Commissioners. I promised Nikki I would keep this, my good friend, keep this brief because I know she's got a big plate for you today. So I did want to come to you with a update on the general election. I can get this to move one. Am I having trouble with technology this morning? Looks like it. Blake, can you advance it to the next slide for me? All right, sorry about that. I don't know what's happening with the clicker here this morning, but first off, some key numbers. Active registered voters in El Paso County as of last week, we have 85,834 Democratic voters, which comprise 19% of the electorate, for 148,297 Republican voters, which comprise 32.7% of the voters, and 217,692 unaffiliated voters, which comprise 47.8%. That's largely due to automatic voter registration. When you come to a motor vehicle office and you are a new permit holder or issued a new driver's license or coming from out of state, you are marked as an unaffiliated. You get a card from our office and by which you're able to affiliate with a party. If you are already affiliated at the time of your renewal, you'll stay that. So if you hear people say that the DMV changed my registration, that's just not that's not true. That's not correct at all. For this election, we are projecting between 55 to 60% turnout. In a presidential election, we typically see in the low to mid 80%. We think 97% of the voters will vote by mail ballot, that they will turn in a drop box or U.S. Postal Service, which about 3% of the voters voting in person at a voter service and polling center. Below is some past numbers with respect to how general midterm elections have gone. We saw in 2014 54%, in 2018 58%. Next slide, please, Blake. 25 days ago, we mailed out ballots to our military and overseas voters. We sent a little over 5,000, and there's a breakdown of what we mailed and then what we emailed. We also, earlier in the month, conducted our visits to healthcare facilities. Those are individuals that are in extended care facilities. And then we have bipartisan teams of individuals that go out and deliver their vote and make sure that they are secure in casting their vote. We conducted our logic and accuracy test, which is a very robust test of our election equipment. 8,450 ballots were tested through and passed with flying colors with no errors at all. That also includes 50 hand counting ballots, hand marked ballots that our testing board went through. Next slide. So yesterday, 453,000 ballots entered the mail stream. For those of you that have informed delivery, you probably saw in your email inbox or text message that you have a ballot coming today. So be on the lookout there. We have 39 drop boxes, with our newest one being out in Commissioner Geithner's district there at Meridian and Swing Line Road. This will be the longest ballot we've had in 34 years, 22 inches. The Pikes Peak Regional Transit Authority lists every project for the next 10 years. That takes up a lot of real estate, and it's a little bit of small print on the backside, but you can make it out. You can see each of the projects that are there. Due to the length of the ballot and the weight of the ballot and increase in postage, it'll take a 60-cent worth of postage to mail that back, but you can save yourself the postage by using one of our drop boxes. Last day to register to vote online and receive a ballot in time is October 31st. Anytime after that, you need to go to a vote center. Next slide. And then our voter service and polling centers. We have our main office at Citizen Service Center on Garden of Gods Road open this week for folks that want to vote in person. Next week, we have 5 additional locations. Our north office at Union and Research, our southeast office at Powers and Airport. We're on the Fort Carson base at the Soldier Readiness Center, downtown here, Centennial Hall, just outside in the hall, and then at UCCS by the soccer field at the Kettle Creek Hall. And then the big lift begins. The last week of the election, we have 17 additional VSPCs that open up on the Friday before the election, and then 14 additional VSPCs opening for Election Day, Monday and Tuesday. That is always a big effort. It puts a lot of strain on our staff, but we get tremendous help from facilities and public works and other departments to make that happen. Next slide. There's been an individual the last couple of weeks that's come before you talking about election integrity, and the individual mentioned that our mail goes as junk mail. That is the farthest thing from the truth. Our mail does not go via junk mail. It gets special recognition when it enters the mail stream. If I could get the overhead, Blake. So here's what a ballot will look like when it goes on out. You see that indicia on the left-hand side there. That indicates to workers that is election mail. It is critical. It is to get processed carefully and expeditiously. Also, all our trays of ballots get these tags. That way, a supervisor on the floor of the Postal Service can see at a glance if there's any postal mail that is mail ballots, so that he or she can scan and see it and make sure it's getting on equipment right away. So it has high visibility. So it is treated even much better than first-class postage. So it is not correct that our mail goes as bulk mail or junk mail. It gets its highest level of scrutiny and intensity and review as possible, so you can be safe and secure about your election.
I have a question.
Yes, Commissioner Williams.
My primary question, though, is there comes a date. So yes, I do get that our mail goes as priority. We know almost to the date, which is probably today, that it will drop in our mailbox. Since our mailbox got run over, we again have to go to the post office to get our mail for a few weeks. So the returning the mail. Sometimes I don't, I think there gets to be a date when we shouldn't trust the Postal Service. I actually never do. I put mine in a Dropbox. I think they're far more reliable. So what date does that date come?
8 days before the election, we say October 31st is the last day to return it by the U.S. Postal Service.
Because the ballot must arrive in your office by 7 p.m.
Correct, by 7 p.m. on November 8th this year.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so I just wanted to clear that up for any other questions? Just wanted to clear that up for yourselves and the public that our mail is not going as junk mail. It goes at the highest level of confidence one can have in the system. So thank you.
Great.
And then if we can go to the next slide. So this is from our friends in Arizona. With elections that are coming, so is inaccurate information. And I ask folks to go to a trusted source. If you have questions about our election system, call our office at 575-VOTE and get the straight skinny. Don't look at social media or your Uncle Ted to get reliable information. Come to us for the facts. There's a lot of misinformation out there. Some of it is unintentional. It's not intended to disrupt election, but there is a lot. Our office deals with a lot of misinformation. People see things from other places in the country and try and overlay what they see here. That's not the case. But if you do have questions or concerns, please go to the trusted source. And then one other thing, if I can get the overhead. Again, Blake. So a big portion of what we do every day in elections when we're not planning or executing elections is our list maintenance. And there's something that each and every one of us can help us with. So while we go through that list and make sure it's pristine as possible, 1 out of 8 people move every year. And most of those 12, 13% use a national change of address form to indicate that. And we get that and we update people's address. But there's still about 2.2% of people who don't. And we are still mailing to their old address. If you get mail in your mailbox for someone that used to live there years ago, there's a way that you can help us with that. On the back of that envelope that was sent that has the ballot in it, on the back side, there's a box that says this person no longer lives at that address. If you check that box and you throw it not in our receptacle, our 24/7 drop boxes, but in the Postal Service, that'll come back with the yellow tag and we're able to do the appropriate thing to remove them from the list. If you unfortunately have a member of your family that has passed away, you can help us there. We get that list from the Social Security Administration and the Department of Public Health every few weeks, but sometimes things get missed. Help us by checking that box that this person is deceased. Throw it into Postal Service mail stream. We'll get that, and we'll make sure that that doesn't get to you the next election. Each mail packet costs about $2, so you can also save tax dollars, important dollars here in the running of election to do so. And with that, Blake, if you'll go to the last slide. Once again, if you have any questions, go to epcvotes.com. We have our sample ballot online. Ballot tracks, if you'd like to sign up for that so that you know when your ballot has been dropped in the mail stream, when we've received your ballot, and when we've tabulated your ballot, sign up for ballot tracks by going to EPC Votes. And once again, if you have any questions, call us at 719-575-VOTE. 575-8683 or email us at elections@elpaso.co. So I appreciate the time on a very busy day for you all.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Brauman. Are there any I have a few questions, but I'll reserve those in case anybody else has any. All right, hearing none. First of all, thanks for presenting this information. It's great information. I signed up for ballot tracks. I really like it. I actually get a confirmation email saying that my ballot was received, so it's done automatically, and that means that I don't necessarily have to do some form of proactive action to get a confirmation. So I really like that. I would encourage people to use that. Another thing that's important is for people just to make sure that they are registered to vote. So what would be the appropriate process? Maybe it's going on epcvotes.com or something, but what would be the appropriate process to to confirm that you're registered to vote?
Correct, Chairman Van Wert. GoVoteColorado.gov is the quickest. We do have a link on our website. If you go to epcvotes.com, you can then click on it and go one more step and get to GoVoteColorado.gov. But that's the best way to, one, register to vote, and also to update that you have, to check that we had the correct mailing address for you.
I think that's very important to make, every once in a while it's important to make sure that the correct mailing address, the correct name, and everything is in the list, of the registered list of voters. And so thanks for that. And then you did mention something about having a lot of people involved in the voting because there's a lot of people picking up ballots from ballot boxes and things like that. Do you need more volunteers? Are you still looking for a few more?
We always can use a few more. We have some people who bow out at the last minute who have maybe even went through our training. So if you are interested in becoming an election judge, we still have a few slots. We also will put you on the wait list in case somebody drops out at the last minute. There again, 719-575-VOTE.
Okay, great. So that's how they would register to volunteer, is to call that 719-575-VOTE number.
Correct.
Great. Thank you very much. I'll just again express my appreciation for all the great work that you and the team do to make sure that our votes get counted here in El Paso County. And I know that's an enormous amount of work, often not well understood by the voters. But I would encourage the voters to take the opportunity to call your office, get their questions answered, go on these resources, these websites, get your questions answered there as well. And perhaps you might be a little bit too busy between now and 8 November, but at some time in the future to also take a tour of your office. I know you offer those tours and actually see how the process, get an understanding about how the process works.
Most certainly. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Did I
I'm
do
sorry,
Did
Commissioner
I do good,
Geithner.
Nikki? Where's Nikki at?
Commissioner Geithner has a question.
Yeah, just a quick question. Over the weekend, had the opportunity to talk to quite a few folks about getting their ballots turned back in this week. And one of the questions that I got was about ballot drop boxes and how they are surveilled and how the chain of custody is ensured through the ballot drop-off process. Would you just touch on that just a bit for folks?
We have our ballot running teams who go and pick up those ballots. They are bipartisan teams of election judges. They will have a vehicle with a magnetic placard that goes on the side identifying they're with the election department. We have to rent vehicles, so they may sometimes not have a Colorado license plate on it. We try to get those with that, but we're a very mobile society, and some of the vehicles may not have a Colorado plate, but we try to get those vehicles that have that. All our folks have vests that identify themselves with the election department. They have a lanyard with their picture and election judge. They're in bipartisan teams. You can tell by the color of their lanyard. They're bipartisan. They come up, they pick up those ballots. It's always under 24/7 camera security. We have individuals that are at our office that are viewing that video. That starts tomorrow and will go through election night. So we have that being actually viewed by an individual there. They take those ballots out of that into a receptacle, and in that receptacle, there are seal logs that seals that receptacle with a seal log chain of custody form that lists that they have picked those up and what the seal numbers are. So when those boxes come back to us, the teams that are doing the intake look at that, look at the seal log, and ensure that that is the same seal log that is, the seals and the seal logs match as they come in, so that they are secured at every point of the way, that there's not open, that ballots are put in or taken out in that process. So it's a very secure process. People should have confidence that when they place their ballot in that box, that it will go to pre-processing and tabulation in due time.
I have 2 questions as well.
All right. Great question, great answer. And Commissioner Williams, go ahead.
Um, I'm sorry, I forgot my first question. I promise it was really good. The second question, though, is are there going to be sample ballots, some sample ballots that we can pick up at your office?
There is. They're yellow. They're oversized sample ballots that people can come and pick up. They can also go to our website at epcvotes.com and look at electronic version of it also. So if you like the paper version, you can stop by our office. More and more people are not electing to do that anymore. They like the convenience of going to our website and looking at it online.
Okay. And Nikki is here to confirm you've met your time limit.
And then some. All right. Thank you all. I appreciate the time.
All right, thank you, Mr. Brownman. I do see that Mr. Schleicher, you are here, and we are at the point of comments from elected officials. Do you have an interest in making any comments at this point, or are you good to go? Okay. All right, very good. Let's bring this up to the dais and have some comments from our commissioners here on the dais, and we'll start with Commissioner Williams.
Yes, I've received a lot of comments about two ballot issues. I want to state that I would like this board to speak out about the Pikes Peak Rural Transportation Authority issue. This one, frequently in a recession, the money that we receive from this is the only funds that are going into our roads. I will also state that a lot of the funds now that come down through PPACG and with our governor's new different pots of sales funding of taxes, we have to use a lot of the other funds we have to meet the greenhouse gas regulations. This is truly our capacity building measure. It is the only measure that we can truly rely on to avoid some of the governor's new rules that he has put in place with transportation. So I hope that this board will take a stand on a resolution for the Pikes Peak RTA. I fully am in support of it. And I do believe that it does, that it is a member-controlled board. So a lot of the projects are submitted by the members themselves. So if the city submits a project, that is the one that we look to see what those projects are about. And then also we have a very active Citizens Advisory Committee. So it is very citizens-led. They review every single contract, every single project, and they keep a close eye on those. So you can be assured that there is that transparency there by the member governments submitting those projects. Again, I will stress this is the way we build the capacity on our roads. It's a major roads project. So this is an important method for the county to build road projects that need capacity. Also, too, I wanted to speak out against the marijuana ballot initiative. This is another one that I hope that we will take a stand on. This is the city initiative. And many of you may wonder, well, if we're speaking out about a City of Colorado Springs initiative and we're county commissioners, why do we care? I think that marijuana is one of those first drugs. Immediately, if it passes, we will have 125 recreational marijuana stores in town. It takes a lot of public safety dollars to handle that. But furthermore, it spills over into our communities such as Glen Eagle. It spills over into the town of Palmer Lake or into the town of Monument. I will state that the town of Palmer Lake also has a recreational marijuana ballot initiative. It's a lot of concern because a lot of our kids start using this drug and move into other drugs from there. And so I think it's the safety on that issue. But most of all, it's not necessarily, well, they have two issues. One is the marijuana initiative. The second is a tax increase to cover public safety to help only the Colorado Springs Police Department. We have also needs at our county jail. And So I don't think that the public safety sales taxes or the public safety tax, even at the state level, we've often found that those marijuana monies don't go where they need to go to. They go to a lot of other issues before they come actually to what we really need it to come to. And so I would encourage you to seriously considering voting no on the city issue, number 301, I believe, and 302. And so, and then I brought today, just as an example, ours is not a blue book. It's a little bit boring, but I think it's useful to take time to read the comments in here. This is the book that we mail out. It is accurate. It may not have been accurate in another county. And so it is completely accurate on comments. And because comments that are submitted by both sides to be added into this. This is the State Blue Book. I think it's interesting to take a moment. It is very big. So your first instinct may be to not speak out or to not take the time to read this. But take the time at the front to notice which ones are referred by the state legislature, which ones amend the Constitution, and which ones amend state statutes. And so those are some basic issues to look at. I have my favorite sites to go to look at analysis. Mark Hillman does a wonderful analysis of ballot issues, as does Jeff Crank. And I refer to both of those. So I would look at both of those on the ballot issues so that you can understand those. And then I think it's just a good place to go to do your research. Do your research. You're allowed to sit around your kitchen table and vote your ballot. That is why I like mail ballots, in all honesty, because sometimes when I get in a voting booth, I have gotten confused in the past, and I would take the time to vote at home on those issues. This week, I have a few meetings, but I'm mostly looking forward to our budgetary hearings. I actually am a budget geek, and I do enjoy these hearings. Also, too, the Colorado Springs Utilities is considering a really interesting ordinance that was sent to us. The ordinance is going to be an ordinance that limits the amount they can annex into their city and requires future developers to bring water in so that they can, with the state of the Colorado River, they want to be able to ensure that they have enough money for all the land they currently have, which is very significant. And so I may be attending that meeting on Wednesday morning, or certainly listening to it, because I think it's going to be a very fascinating ordinance to see how it affects growth in El Paso County. So thank you.
Great, Commissioner. Great comments. Appreciate those. Let's go to Commissioner Geithner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning to everyone. Couple of things that are going on. I was very pleased to spend some time meeting with one of our utility partners, Mountain View Electric, yesterday. Great opportunity to meet the new CEO over there and continue the great relationship building that has been happening with them as a partner. This week, I also have a Pikes Peak Library District meeting. There's a fair advisory meeting out in Calhoun. And on Monday, I have a NACO Ag and Rural Affairs call that I'll be participating in as well. Wanted to thank Commissioner Williams for bringing up some of those important things that are coming up. I know we have some resolutions coming up where we'll officially weigh in on a few of those items next week, and I look forward to that as well. I think there are some very important things and very impactful potential policies that are coming out on our ballots. I did receive my notification from Ballot Tracks yesterday that my ballot was on its way, so I'm looking forward to seeing that in my mailbox. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Appreciate those comments. Commissioner Gonzalez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I too want to highlight, just to remind everybody to get out and vote and register if you have not yet and are eligible. I I do believe this board will be taking some votes on positions on a couple of these ballots, and so I'll reserve my comments for them, but be assured that we will be weighing in on a couple of these very important votes, but that will be next week, and I believe also Board of Health will be taking a position on one as well. So I just want to highlight that we will be doing that next week, so I'll reserve my comments until next week. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. And Commissioner Bremer.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I concur with what my colleagues have said thus far regarding all of the issues you will see on those ballots that are in the mail-in on the way to you. I have debated whether to bring up something that occurred yesterday, and I've come to the conclusion that it's my job as a leader to do so. I woke yesterday morning to dozens of texts, phone calls, and messages regarding some of my campaign signs being defaced. I won't even repeat from this dais the offensive message that was clearly targeted to my signs throughout town, nor will I use this forum to campaign. But I'm a person of faith, taught by my parents to pray for those who lash out. And the saddest thing about this incident is that children going to school had to see hatred displayed in such an ugly fashion. My son and so many others are going to schools or taught by their parents where they're taught how to be a good citizen, how to respect others, and what it means to be a proud American. But they don't always see the adults around them modeling this. This incident should cause us all to redouble our commitment to disagree without being disagreeable or being hateful and harmful to others. It should cause us to think about the balance of law and order and protecting the rights of free speech and religion without causing harm to others or their private property. It should cause us to think about respecting all those who throw their hat in the ring to serve our community. Interfering with an election is a felony, and law enforcement is now fully engaged to see if the perpetrators can be brought to justice. Protecting the integrity of our elections is important to me and to so many others in our community and in our country. And I hope for our society's sake that they will face the full consequences of interfering in our free elections. Destroying private property and interfering have no place in our society. Finally, my family and I have been overwhelmed by those who have reached out to comfort me, many of whom I don't even know. You're just the good citizens. Thank you to all of you. The voters, not cowards in the night, will have the final say on my service to our community, and I am at perfect peace with your decision.
Thank you, Commissioner, and I appreciate those comments. And I also appreciate Commissioner Bremer's sharing of what happened to some of her campaign signs. They were offensive. To the people that did that, you broke the law. That was private property. And you know, this country is supposed to be based on civil discourse. We're supposed to be all Americans. We're supposed to all be working together. It doesn't mean we have to agree with things, and we certainly have our disagreements. But it is so important for every American citizen to remember that we're Americans. We're friends. We're family. We live together. Let's do that civilly. Let's have our conversations and talk about what we think is right and wrong for the country. And when we're done with that, even if we have big disagreements, let's still go have fun together. Let's still go to picnics together with our families. Let's still go to the same churches together. Let's remember who we really are. Those comments were offensive. And I'm just sorry that I had to see something like that in this community. Totally inappropriate. All right, to the rest of the comments that I have, I had lunch yesterday with the CEO of the Navigators, a great conversation, one of many fantastic faith-based organizations in our community here. I am proud that we host organizations like that think so deeply about the souls of the citizens here of El Paso County, but also the souls of people around the world. It's a great organization, and I had a wonderful lunch with him. Tomorrow, I will be participating in the state's Board of Health meeting, and this is a somewhat unusual meeting. It happens once a year, where we'll have our regular business meeting for the State Board of Health, and then we will have a follow-on business meeting with the Air Quality Control Commission. This is required by statute that the State Board of Health and the Air Quality Control Commission meet once a year, and the AQCC has to provide a report to the Board of Health in that meeting, and then we'll have a social, which will be an opportunity for me to meet several of the people on AQCC. I'm here to say that I think some of the decisions that AQCC has made have not necessarily been the best decisions on behalf of the citizens of Colorado. I think they're taking too extreme a position with regard to air quality and other things within the state, but I'll have an opportunity to have those conversations with them at that meeting. Also on Monday, the 24th, this coming Monday, I'll be participating in the retirement board with my colleague, Commissioner Gonzalez. And I was not present last week. Appreciate Commissioner Bremer chairing that board. I was in Hawaii with my wife, and we were celebrating our 30th wedding anniversary. And we did a lot of really fun things, and it was just a great vacation. We hiked Diamond Head. We went to a luau, went on a dinner cruise, enjoyed some great dinners, saw a ton of sunsets of some amazing, beautiful beaches, went to Pearl Harbor, which, by the way, was a special moment for me because we had one of the survivors of the USS Arizona living in our community here, and we were able to honor him before he passed away. But I got to see the ship that he was on during the Pearl Harbor attack. And then one last thing is I got a chance to climb Mauna Koa, which is the tallest mountain in Hawaii. Amazingly, it's very close to the height of mountains that are in Colorado. It's 13,796 feet. While most of Hawaii is very warm and very humid, it was nice and cool on that mountain, and it was a nice reprieve from some of the humidity, but it was all a great vacation. I appreciate the comments of my fellow commissioners with regard to us starting to make comments about and positions that we might take with regard to what we'll have an opportunity to vote on here coming up through November 8th. I do believe it is very important, and I can tell you that I will be voting for the ballot measure for the Pikes Peak Rural Transportation Authority, PPRTA. This is local money collected locally and kept locally for local infrastructure. It is not money that goes to Denver from our other taxes that we pay. And sometimes when that money goes to Denver, it doesn't come back to our community. This money stays in our community to help deal with infrastructure. And it was crucially important in some years in the past when very little money came from the state down here to deal with roads and bridges. And we had PPRTA dollars still available to do that. So I will be voting for that. I appreciate also the comment about voting no on the recreational marijuana. I will be voting no on that ballot measure as well. It's still a Class 1 drug listed by the federal government that way. I believe it is much more harmful than some people believe it is. I believe that it costs El Paso County a lot of money. And when recreational and medical marijuana was voted in Colorado, one of the things that was supposed to happen was the tax receipts from those sales, some of that was supposed to go towards paying for the social costs from local governments. And I can tell you it's my firm belief that El Paso County has never received anything close to the social costs that have been brought forward by marijuana in our community. I don't believe that that law is being properly addressed. And now here we are thinking about recreational marijuana in the city of Colorado Springs. I would encourage people to vote no on that. Also, let's see. I just want to say one last thing, and that is, and we will talk about it more on this board, but please vote. Please, please vote. It is your right, and there's billions of people around the planet that do not have that right. It is so important to exercise that right. Every single person, no matter who you are, where you come from, if you're an American citizen, please, please vote. And those are my comments for today. Thank everybody for the comments that you've all provided. And let us go ahead and, oh yes, please, Commissioner Gonzalez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Apologize, I did forget to add one thing. Commissioner Williams did bring up I will be attending the utilities meeting tomorrow for Colorado Springs. As she mentioned, this annexation water use proposal that they're going to talk about tomorrow. According to the article I read just a couple days ago, does look like it largely affects District 4 in the southeast. We don't get to vote on annexation or decide any of that kind of stuff for the city, but it does look like, according to the article, that there are some implications there to potentially Fountain, El Paso County, and clearly Colorado Springs. So I'd like to attend and listen. I would have wished that if it was something that was going to affect District 4, that maybe I would have gotten an earlier presentation, but I will go there and listen to see what their information is on this. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate those comments as well. And before I close out this item 6, comments by elected officials, any other comments from any of the commissioners? Okay, very good. All right, I believe item number 6 is now completed. Let's move to item number 7.
Item number 7 is community service organization reports. There are none.
Very good. Item number 8.
Item number 8 is public comment on items not scheduled on the agenda. This is the public's opportunity to comment on an item not scheduled on today's agenda. And Mr. Chair, I didn't have any individuals sign in ahead of time, so I have no names to read off that list.
Okay, very good. Is there anybody in the audience that wishes to speak, any members of the public that wish to speak on any items not scheduled on the agenda? And I don't see anybody coming forward. I'll just ask if there's anybody online. Nobody online. Okay, very good. Let us move then now to item number 9.
Item number 9 is the called up consent calendar. There are no items called up.
Very good. And then item number 10.
Item number 10, department and committee reports, non-action items. 10A, 2023 budget hearing number 2, budget reports and departments, offices, critical needs, presentations. Nikki Simmons, Chief Financial Officer.
Good morning.
Good morning, commissioners. We're here today to kick off the first day of our critical need hearings. So today we'll hear from 4 departments and offices regarding their requests that are in the preliminary balanced budget. And then the remainder of the offices with funding requests in the preliminary budget we'll hear from on Thursday. And so we'll kick this off with our assessor. Steve Schleicher is here to talk to his request. And you all have a schedule in front of you, or we'll be flexible today with how we have to do things. I understand we may break and move some things around in the agenda. We're going to make sure this works because it didn't work for Steve, or for your Steve, Chuck. Sorry, we're having a little bit of technical difficulties right now. This is working. Yep, you're good to go.
Good morning, Commissioner. Steve Schleicher, El Paso County Assessor. It's good to see everybody this morning. And as you can see, I pulled a short straw to be first, so I apologize. I'm going to make this very quick, as history has shown, as I'm really quick in the budget presentation. So I just want to share with you is, when I became the county assessor, my mission, the office mission, is to meet or exceed the state of Colorado's statutory requirements rules and regulations in the administration of the county's property assessment and ensuring everybody is fairly and justly valued here in El Paso County. The other thing is a lot of folks in the community don't understand what is the role of their county assessor, and it can be broken down into 4 categories where we discover, list, classify, and value all taxable and also all the exempt property in El Paso County, which is your school districts, nonprofits, churches, organizations like that. So currently, my staffing is, I got 47 full-time employees and 1 part-time employee who's working on catching up sketches and things like that. And how my office is broken up is I got 26 state licensed appraisers, which we have to be licensed through the state of Colorado, and 21 administrative staff. So what I want to do is set a platform here. Is one of the things is keep in mind is we're the largest county when it comes to the number of parcels, and we're also the most populous, as you all know. In addition to this is, as I'm talking about staff, not only am I going to take an opportunity here today to brag about the staff you have in the assessor's office, but at the same time is I would like to bring the El Paso County staff into a whole of how much work is getting done. When you're looking at 47 full-time staff members in your assessor's office, one thing I would like to share with you is I am the smallest staffed metro assessor's office in the state of Colorado. And we have been in one of the hottest markets here locally over the last 7 years. So the total number of taxable schedules, these are taxable, not exempt, is just shy of 294,000. 67% of our parcels are single-family residential. And taking a look is, you all know that I'm a strong, very strong advocate for the senior homestead exemption and the disabled veteran exemption. 14.7% of our single family are in the senior homestead exemption, and 2.2% are in the disabled veteran. So let's put that into a little bit of an analogy. We have as many seniors in El Paso County enrolled in the senior homestead exemption as Teller County has total population. This is a very large and needed program here in El Paso County. What I want to share here is I was here several weeks ago just to share what's going on with the data, what's going on with the local market, but just to bring you up to speed of what the operating indicators are and what these 47 staff members have been doing. So the total number of schedules when you go back to 2019 to current is we have increased nearly 2% each and every year, which is pretty significant. We're seeing a lot of new construction out there. We are projected to be about 1.79% higher than we were in 2021, and we're still seeing that growth. Total number of permits. I've come before you each and every year saying we set another record, we've set another record, and we're probably going to be doing that again this year where we're projected to be about 4.4% higher than we were in 2021 at the end of this year. Real property sales. We're looking, things are slowing down. As I mentioned several weeks ago, we're going to be about 13% lower in real property sales. But still, when you take a look at the sales that have occurred over the 4-year period, where we're 7.2% compared to 2019 and 2020, 11.5% in 2021. And year to date, we're about minus 13%, but still we're seeing a lot of strong sales here. Residential median sale price, this is all information that you all know. Condominium sale price, townhome, property appeals. The reason why I share this data with you when we have over 300,000 taxable and exempt parcels in El Paso County is when you look at every odd year being a reappraisal year, just shy of 2% of our parcels are being appealed. What does that say? What that shares to me as the assessor is our values are pretty dang good. You know, we go out there, we provide information to the property owners, we give them comps where they can sit there and see comparable properties. But right now, I will sit there and humbly say we are probably the lowest in appeals in the state of Colorado. The budget that you provided me this last year was $4.2 million, where just shy of 93% of my budget is salary and wages. And as you can see, 300,000 of that, 7.2%, is dedicated to operations. And I will tell you, here's the office wins that we have basically done over the last 7 years. I've come before you with no operations budget increases for 7+ years. We've updated the assessor's office website, which now is getting over 49 million hits a year. And of course, I get people calling me all the time wanting to advertise on that website. Online appeals, making it very easy for our property owners to appeal their property value online, where, you know, Commissioner Williams, as you said, you can sit there and do things from your kitchen table. They should be able to do the same thing as far as appealing their property value sitting at their kitchen table. Data requests. We get data requests daily where folks want to know how many commercial properties reside in a particular district. We've been extremely busy the last 6 months, where we have entities that want to go to the ballot and they want to get a list of all of the voters, and they're the property owners. So we provide that information to them. So we do a lot of data requests, and we provide that to our citizens for free. Implemented mobile appraisal, where we have folks that are out there in the field and they're appraising the home, and instead of just basically writing the stuff down, it's, you know, we put it on a tablet, download it. So we created some more efficiency and effectiveness, which is an oxymoron in government, but that's exactly what we have done here in El Paso County, which is one of the reasons why I'm at 47 staff members here in El Paso County. And as you know, we are going through one of the largest software upgrades here in El Paso County that we have seen in the last 40 years between the assessor's office and the treasurer's office. And things are going extremely well with our new Harris Govern software update for our new CAMA system. So sadly, I'm here at requesting a $50,000 increase to my base operations budget. And I was hoping not having to do this, but here is why. Is our yearly notice of value and declaration schedule, printing and mailing, and also I coordinate with our county treasurer, is by statute, we also have to provide flyers informing all property owners of the senior homestead exemption, the disabled veteran exemption, and also the tax deferral program that our treasurer coordinates. So the treasurer's always been very kind, where we put those flyers enclosed in the yearly tax statement for all of our property owners to read. But what is happening, and as you guys already know, I have seen an increase of 12.6% of taxable schedules over the past 7 years. In 2014, postage rates were 49 cents per letter. Today, that's 60 cents. Paper and printing has increased 11% over this past year alone. And just normal year-by-year increases is less than 1 to 3% per year. So what is going on? And I did a little research. Wood pulp, making paper, cost for transportation and chemicals, not being able to hire drivers, logistics, workforce, folks not being able to hire, you know, staff to do the printing and the mailing and stuff like that. So right now what I'm looking at is about a $50,000 increase to my base operations budget to cover the yearly notices of value, the yearly personal property declaration schedules that are mailed out per statute, and also the printing of the flyers that we are required by statute to send out. So what that will do is basically take my budget from 4.2 million to 4.298. And that's basically all I'm needing, you know, for my office is twofold. Is collectively, we need to continue to take care of our employees and look at giving a cost of living increase to all of our employees. Everything has gone up, as we know. But like I said, is if I'm able to get a $50,000 operations increase, that would be great. But it will not hinder anything if you decline that. But I will just share is everything has gone up, and if we can get that and also take care of our employees, it would be very good. That's my presentation.
Okay, very good. Are there any questions from any of the commissioners? All right, just a quick question for me. So you're making that request for 50,000. I'm trying to go through the presentations from Nikki from last week, and I'm just checking to confirm. Is that 50,000 request baked in already into what you have as the overall budget? It is. I see a head shake up and down. Okay, very good.
Yep.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much. I have no further questions.
Awesome. Thank you, commissioners. Have a great day.
Thank you. Okay.
Mr. Chair, I wonder if we could entertain going to consider the executive session at this time and then come back to the budget hearings if that would be okay with the board.
Oh, okay, very good. Is there any objection to any of the, from any of the commissioners about going into executive session, then after we come out, continuing with the budget hearings? All right, seeing none, let's go ahead and get a reading for the executive session item 12A.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Item number 11 is the addendum, and that includes the executive session, which is 12A. Executive session pursuant to CRS 246402 4B and E. The County Attorney's Office is requesting an executive session with the Board of County Commissioners regarding a proposed process to offer optional business credits by and through the Economic Development Department and Enterprise Zone to include 1, providing legal advice on specific legal questions related to the above referenced matter and specifically legal options for providing business credits under the Enterprise Zone legislation, and 2, determining positions relative to matters that may be subject to negotiations, developing strategy for negotiations, and instructing negotiators regarding the above referenced matter, specifically regarding offering a business credit under the Enterprise Zone legislation. Kenneth Hodges, County Attorney; Stephen Klafke, Chief Deputy County Attorney; Crystal Latier, Executive Director, Economic Development Department.
All right, very good. Are there any questions from any of the commissioners regarding the executive session at this point? All right, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I move we go into executive session for the reasons stated on the record.
Second.
All right, that's been moved and seconded. Let's proceed with a vote. Commissioner Williams.
Aye.
Commissioner Geithner.
Aye.
Commissioner Gonzalez.
Aye.
Commissioner Bremer.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. That passes 5-0. We'll now go into executive session and we'll reconvene. Looks like it's about 3 or 4 minutes after 10 right now. We'll reconvene up there at 10 after.
Let the bass kick. Let the bass kick. Let the bass kick.
Think about it. 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 Think about it.
Let the bass kick.
Think about it. 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 biggest thing that's ever happened. This may be the biggest thing that's ever happened. This may be the biggest thing that's ever happened. Breakdown. Think about it. Think about it. Think about it.
Bass kick.
Think about it. 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 Think about it.
If your equipment isn't properly set up, you might be missing some of the benefits that stereo can provide.
Missile down, radar down, what's happening? We're 3 minutes away from a loss of signal. All the people on this earth are truly one.
It's a dream.
We create a mental atmosphere. It's time to jam.
We bring you this
special radio television broadcast in order to give you the very latest information on an amazing phenomenon.
Is the future.
I'm a real. I'm a real.
All the people on this earth are truly one. We've had loss of signal now.
session, so I need a motion to come out of executive session.
Move to come out of executive session.
Second.
We'll let our clerk decide who was quicker on the draw there. Let's go ahead and proceed with the vote to come out of executive session. Commissioner Williams.
Aye.
Commissioner Geiger.
Aye.
Commissioner Gonzalez. Aye. Commissioner Brown.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. That's 5-0. We're now out of executive session. I think our county attorney has a statement.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The board is exiting executive session where direction was given but no decision.
All right, very good. So I believe we are now back to 10A and getting ready, gearing up for our second presentation, second budget presentation. All right, thank you. And it is still good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. Kevin Masson, Interim Director of Planning and Community Development. Thank you for the opportunity to present the critical needs for planning and community development for 2023. Start out with the county's new strategic goals. These are the two goals that are most probably critical to what we're doing in planning and community development. This is what our requests will be based on, and that is service quality and community trust. And for us, the quality that we can provide to both our citizens, the development community, anybody else that needs to continue the process of planning and community development, as well as trusting what we are doing on a daily basis to provide that. Our operating indicators, this is, as far as specific operating indicators, this is a comparison to where we're at now versus 2021. If you take a look at the percentages on the right-hand side, anything that's less than 75% will let you know where we are behind versus 2021. Now, this was expected. You'll see this in what our planned budget was as far as the collections this next year, or for this year, because we did anticipate that the economy would probably fall back a little bit, and so the numbers that you're seeing here are not expected. Now, what is a little unusual that you'll see here in a moment, that although we are behind on the number of project types that we are processing, we're actually ahead on fees collected, and that's due to some of the fees that are collected for type C and D projects. One thing I do want to highlight, though, is you can see code enforcement, we're at 88%. We're ahead of where we were last year as far as code enforcement issues that we're dealing with. As far as a highlight here for the budget itself, if you can see what was annually budgeted, those numbers, that 70,700, 975, those were predicted to be low again, just not knowing what the economy was going to do. But if you look on the right-hand side, early assistance meetings, these are typically your counter visits with citizens that come in, as well as some technical reviews. Those numbers are down. The early assistance meetings in the type A and B, those are down as anticipated. But the type C and D is where, even though the numbers are down, the fees collected in the C's and D's are ahead. And I do have a breakout of the type C and D fees, and some fees on some of those projects are just exponentially higher. And we've seen an increase in those types of projects with the higher fees. Now, the one thing that I did learn as we're putting this together is that what you'll end up seeing is an inverse next year, is that you'll see an increase in A and Bs, and C and Ds will fall down next year, and they're constantly cycling from year to year. But right now, as far as fees collected, we're well ahead of where we anticipated, and we expect to be around $2.3 to $2.4 million in fees collected by the end of the year. This is code enforcement. I wanted to highlight where we're at with code enforcement. We're doing okay as far as the fees. We're not behind in code enforcement where it's not costing the county money at this point. Our beginning balance for code enforcement was at $93,870. And if you look at the properties, again, protecting the identities of the citizens involved for this presentation, but you can see the fees or what the costs were to the county. Like, so you can see property 1, 2, 3, and 4. That's what it cost us to go out and do the cleanups. I'll talk about community cleanups here in just a moment. But we have 3 other properties, property 10, 12, and 13, where the estimate's $35,000, $30,000, and $10,000. The way this typically works when we do a cleanup on a property is we will work with the citizen to get basically a payment plan put together for them so they can pay back the fee that the county had to spend to do the cleanup on their property. If for any reason the citizen does not pay back the fee, then we'll put a lien on the property to get that money back. And if you look at the very bottom, the second line up in the green, we've collected $40,872.80 via liens on properties where citizens did not pay back what was owed. The community cleanup, I'm going to mention this again here later, but community cleanup, what Mindy Madden and her team with Joe Leckie have done this year, have targeted specific areas in the county that have had issues with code enforcement, with cleanup issues. And what we have done is we've created days where we've gone out there with dumpsters, working with Junk King, and have a day where anybody can bring anything and throw it in the dumpster. We've also worked with Walmart. Walmart has helped on some of these. We've been able to have hot dogs and tea and lemonade when people come through, and it's been a huge success. And the one thing that this has done for us as well is that we've had citizens that have participated in this that are now going around when they know about the event happening, going through the neighborhood to go, look, if you don't have a truck or a trailer to get your stuff out, we will do it for you and get it to the cleanup site or the dumpster site to help clean up the communities. Now, what we don't have data on yet is, are we going to see a significant decrease in code enforcement issues in these areas? And my expectation is that we will. If I don't have pictures with me, but we get a lot of washers, dryers, TVs, couches, old entertainment centers, all these things that typically clutter up a person's yard are the things that now it's much easier for people to bring those to a location and get those things taken care of. Let's see, but right now we're estimating we'll be ahead by about $1,600 here by the end of the year with this.
So I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Does hazardous waste help dispose of the TVs and such?
Yeah, it goes to Junk King, whatever Junk King does with it. I'm not sure what they do with the items themselves, but Junk King just takes care of everything for us.
And on the community cleanups, can you let the commissioners know when there's one in our district?
Yes, you should have been notified, and if not, I'll make sure that's corrected. Yes, I'll make sure that you're aware of those. Now on the cleanup, I do want to mention here is that this property 10 estimate of $35,000. We have a cleanup that we're doing right now, again, to protect the identity of the citizen, is that it's taken 10 days to clean up that property. It is not much different than the property where we had the fire, where this is a property where an owner has allowed people to reside on the property. It was in violation of code. And then part of the cleanup is medical waste, drug paraphernalia, human waste. It's really, it's a lot more extensive than I think what a lot of people truly understand when we get into some of these cleanups. And that's why you see the price of that is so expensive. It may actually be higher than that by the time we're done. We did not expect it to be a 10-day cleanup. We're only expecting about 4 to 5 on that one. Our challenges, homeless camp cleanup. Now I verified with code enforcement that we have not actually had in 2021 a specific homeless camp cleanup that we have done in planning community development. However, we've had to work with several citizens who have had to use their own money to do homeless camp cleanups on their property, which is creating a problem, a financial burden for landowners. However, that we do expect, based off of what we're seeing historically, that homeless camp issues are going to continue to be a problem for us, and that's where you're going to see a request for money for for homeless camp cleanup, which I'll talk about here in just a second. The wins that we've had, the master plan won the 2022 American Planners Association Colorado Merit Award. Ryan Hauser went to Vail, Colorado a couple weeks ago and accepted that award on behalf of the county. The other wins are the code enforcement community events. And the reason I say this is a big win is because this is something that Mindy and her team put together. This was an idea they had. It has been extremely successful, and the feedback from the community has been exceptional. I'm going to jump down real quick to procedural changes. There's been several procedural changes that we're making in planning community development. This is just an example, giving developers the option to skip the minor preliminary plan process and just submit a final plat when they're only doing 5 to 25 lots. And the reason I want to talk about this first is because it jumps back to cultural changes. One of the big things, and I call this a win, it's not a budgetary win of any kind, but it is a huge win for us, because with the cultural changes we've been able to make in planning community development, there was an expectation that everything had to be absolutely perfect. It had to be perfect. When you drive people to do everything perfectly, they will no longer take chances. And then there's fear of failure, and there's fears of making a mistake. And that's part of the cultural change that we're going through right now, that, hey, mistakes are going to happen. There's nobody in this world that doesn't go through a day without making some sort of a mistake of some kind. Mistakes are okay. We're going to learn from it. We're going to keep pressing on. But by allowing people to make mistakes, it's opening up the door to creativity, come up with some new ideas. Let's try it. Let's see if it works. If it doesn't work, we'll change it. But let's come up with different things that we can do. And it's really taken kind of the restraints off of the folks in planning and community development. It's going to take a while, but we are doing a significant number of changes in planning and community development to help expedite processes, make things easier, and then really getting people to ask why. Why do we do this? And we keep asking why until we can no longer ask why, and then we found the solution or found the reason to something. But there are things that we've been doing where there's just, we cannot find a source of justification for why we're doing things. So that's the cultural part of it. But I think that out of everything we've done, that's, I think, is the most significant win that we've had, is that creating the culture that allows people to get creative and come up with new ideas and create efficiencies. Our critical needs, the first one is 2 additional planners. So here's where we're at. When I took over as the interim, we had 5 total planners that were working in planning and community development. And I just want to kind of put it in perspective. We always talk about how we're larger than the state of Rhode Island. We're also larger than the state of Delaware. But the state of Delaware and Rhode Island have more than 5 planners. State of Rhode Island has 5 counties that have teams of planners that are taking care of that state. Just to put it in perspective is kind of what we're dealing with. We had 5 when we picked up the new planning manager, Justin Kilgore, who's been incredible. And we also picked up Dan Feuerbach. He's another planner that we just picked up that put us at 7. However, we're going to be dropping back to 6 because one of our senior planners is going to go to the Air Force Academy, accepted a position there. So we're back to 6. We're in the interview process right now that'll bring us back to 7. And then once the senior planner goes to the academy, we'll re-advertise that position. And that should hopefully put us back at 8. But we're requesting 2 additional planners to bring us up to a total of 10. And if we did have the full number of people we have right now at 8, 2 more would give us a 25% increase in our capacity to be able to do planning. The justification for it is that right now the workload exceeds the current capacity of the planning team to provide expedited processing of applications. And the key word on this is expedited. Can we continue to do the planning with only 8 planners? Absolutely, we can, but it's going to take way longer to do it, and things are going to be delayed. So the more planners we can get, we'll get a significant decrease in our amount of time to be able to turn projects and get things out for people. We have had to contract out planning reviews because we did not have enough people, but if we can get ourselves up to 10 by the first of the year, the contract that we have been using will no longer be required. And we should be able to do fine with a 10. Our expected outcome, again, the objective 2, service quality, decreasing processing times, improving our employee retention with the distribution of workload, because that burnout is a definite issue that we're dealing with. But that goes back into some of the cultural changes, and that's making sure we're taking care of each other, taking care of ourselves, so that we are refreshed every week to get the job done. And then the other 2 is the community trust, trusting the process, trusting in how we're doing things, that we are responding appropriately, and that we're helping people get whatever project it is they want to get completed, that we're helping them get that to fruition. The cost there, $244,788. I'll give a breakdown of that here in a moment. Our critical need number 2, funding for homeless camps, is $150,000. This $150,000 will basically be on account. And with homeless camp cleanups, we're in the final process or final stages of finishing an IGA with the city of Colorado Springs. The reason for the IGA with the city of Colorado Springs, they have people that are trained to do homeless camp cleanups. They are equipped to do homeless camp cleanups, and they're very efficient and they're good at it. And what we want to be able to do is when we have homeless camp cleanup requirements on property that we're responsible for, is to be able to work with the city. They do the cleanup, and then they would back bill us for this. The $150,000, will we spend all of it? We are not sure whether we would or we won't, whether we'll go over it or whether we'll be under, but we just need to be able to make sure, we have to have the money set aside to be able to fund it if that requirement does exist for us. It is a growing concern for us here in the county. The outcome, again, service quality and community trust. On this, the service quality part of it is that getting the job done as quickly as we can, using the resources that are trained and equipped to do this. But the community trust part of it is a big deal. When citizens call in, they expect something to be done immediately, and we need to be able to do that. We cannot slow leak stuff as we try to get the resources available to address the issue. And one of the problems we have with homeless camps is that it's the longer we wait to get there, the more they grow, and the more the more deep-rooted they get in whatever location that they're in, and then it becomes even more expensive and more difficult to address the situation if we can't get on it as quickly as we can.
I just have a quick question
Yes,
on
sir.
that, if I might. So with regard to trying to address this more quickly, I think that is very important. You know, my experience since becoming a county commissioner, actually in 17 and 18, same deal, we had no budget, but I asked the county administrator at the time, and we had a $25,000 limit for what the county administrator could do, you know, on their own without coming back to the commissioners. So I asked them to just put about $20,000 against this. He never put it in a separate budget line, but we did use that money. The problem, though, was not so much about the money that was needed. The problem was the speed. It always seemed to take 2, sometimes maybe 4 months to deal with homeless camp cleanups on the west side because of complicated jurisdiction issues, like a homeless camp that's partially on CDOT jurisdiction and partially on county jurisdiction. And in some cases, we even had those two and the city. So it was a mix of all three. So I'm interested in, you know, the city has done some work about having a sufficient number of shelter beds, and that was a big issue about liability, having some groups suing if there was not an alternative place for these people to go, whether we like that idea or not. That seemed to be kind of the operative condition, and I think the city has done a great job at delivering plenty of shelter beds. So it seems to me like we have a place where we can go faster on this. And I'd be interested, perhaps not necessarily for today, but I'd be interested in learning more about what your plans are for going faster, for doing these cleanups. Because like over on the west side, Highway 24, the businesses, they end up with homeless camps, you know, behind those businesses. Some of those are hotels. And they're worried about the potentially crime or just kind of an unsightly environment where they could lose some business for some people not wanting to stay in the hotel because that homeless camp is immediately adjacent, or literally in some cases on the other side of a chain link fence, literally 5 feet away from a window of a hotel room. So I am interested in the concepts about how to go faster, and perhaps you could come see me and talk to me about what those plans are, unless you have some comments about it now.
I will tell you, this is a very, very tough nut to crack, because when we do have a homeless camp, again, the jurisdiction problem is an issue. The other is that the people that are living in these homeless camps have their rights, and we can't just come in and shag them out of there. We just can't come in and kick them out. There's way more to that. We're also working very closely with the sheriff's office. We have to deal with property, who owns the property, and then kind of the situation that we dealt with the fire is that people say this is a homeless camp, but these people are actually paying rent to a person that owns the property. Not every homeless camp is the same. Everyone has its own unique set of challenges, and that's the thing that it's something we're going to have to really dig into to figure out. I mean, I myself, we don't get homeless camps under control. I think this is going to be a full-time job, a full-time division that's just a homeless camp division. That's all they do, because we are very, very limited with what we are able to do when there is a homeless camp, to be able to go in and have the people moved, and then on top of that, to get in and the structure. Just as an example, there's one homeless camp cleanup that Minnie Madden related to me, that if you're walking down the bank of where this location was at, it just looks like the lid off of a trash can. Not a big deal, just a lid sitting there. But if you open the lid up, it went into a full complex underneath of multiple rooms that people were living in. And then some of these are drug dens. There's the other part of it too that people I don't think they necessarily understand completely, is that it's very, very dangerous to set a code enforcement officer in these locations due to these people being armed, people that are strung out on meth. We've got people. It's a very dynamic environment to go into. So it's not just a simple, hey, there's some homeless campuses, we want to get it cleaned up. There's way more to it that we have to.
I agree that it's not simple. I mean, I certainly have been through this many times on the west side, and There's a lot of reasons for why people are in these camps. Some of it is because they're addicted. Some of them are criminals and they're hiding there. Some of them want the lifestyle. It's very difficult to figure it all out. But I still think we could go from a process of months to a process of weeks. And I just think there's something that can be done in the design there. And I don't know what the right answer is, but one thing that comes to mind is we often go down these one-off kinds of scenarios of, well, we got to figure out the jurisdiction, and then we find out it's in CDOT, and then that takes a week or two, and then we go to CDOT, and then they take a month before they show up or something like that. And it just feels to me like we could, I'm going to offer an idea, but it's not necessarily the right idea. It's just something to offer up. Maybe there's an IGA between the city and the county and CDOT that could be put in place that would allow for faster processing on those sort of things. So upon discovery, execute the IGA, then you get to a fairly quick answer, and then you do the proper things. You do your 48-hour notification and so forth, but it becomes weeks instead of months. Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, Commissioner Williams.
I think it's a great mountain to climb. So I say that knowing that the city of Colorado Springs struggled with the Colorado Department of Transportation just when they put up signs that had the text message that you could text and donate money instead of giving them to the panhandlers. My concern is when it comes to the homeless camps, you may find that this current administration in the state of Colorado has a different viewpoint than we do, and that you will have a lot of bureaucracy to climb at CDOT. But hey, if anyone can do it, Stan, I know you can climb every 14er and most 13ers in the state of Colorado, so we will get to work on it.
There you go. It's just another type of a mountain, right?
Yes,
to
it is.
use the analogy that you used. Okay, thank you.
Right,
Other
and there's-
comments? Oh, go ahead, continue.
As far as the base budget critical needs, right now the base budget's 3.5 million. With our critical needs request, it'll add an additional $340,723 to the sum you see on the far right, little over $3.8 million. For 2 additional full-time employees, including FICA, it's going to be $180,723. Now that number could flex depending on the level of planner that we hire. Either it was a planner 1, 2, 3, or a senior planner. It could affect that number a little bit, not above it, but it could bring it down a little bit. And then the $150,000 is a starting point for our homeless camp cleanup efforts. And there's a one-time cost of $10,000, and that's for new full-time employees to bring them on. It'll cost about $5,000 per employee. And that's all I have for my presentation, pending any questions.
Great. Yes, Commissioner Williams.
Just a little bit of levity here. You told me that there was prime real estate available in Mile High Stadium. Can you tell me why?
Yeah, so the middle of the field is available because the offense isn't using it. So.
Oh, good response.
Thank you. That feels really good to say that today.
Commissioner Geithner is smiling. I think she liked that response and she has a comment or a question.
Yes, I did. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Appreciate the presentation. I just wanted to point out that really, I think it's fantastic that we're focusing on getting through the process and providing fantastic service. So appreciate that on the planner side, and just really appreciate the foresight on where we are headed and the challenges that we're going to have to continue to deal with in terms of homeless camps, and making sure that we are putting that into our budget to be able to equip us to dealing with this. However, the details are worked out on how it gets done, knowing that we are going to need financial resources and if we want to keep ourselves from, quite frankly, becoming Denver. And so I really do appreciate that being brought forward as a critical need. So thank you.
Great. Thank you for those comments. Commissioner Gonzalez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I too want to thank you for this. I do think we need to focus a little bit more. Again, we need to make sure our residents are kept safe, and that the homeless camps, that we can bring the appropriate support to them as well. That's a secondary aspect of this, is helping those that are in need, helping them as well. But we do need to make sure that public safety, public health is taken care of, and the 150,000 I think is very appropriate. I think a couple months ago, I also mentioned as well, if you need to do one more cleanup before the end of this year somewhere, let us know. I am more than happy to provide, whether there's any underspending or, because these are not high dollar necessarily costs for 1 or 2 cleanups. Do cleanup if it's from reserves or something that we can then replenish. If we can add one more cleanup before the end of the year, I'd be more than happy to support that as well. Thank you.
Great. Thank you for your comments, Commissioner. Commissioner Bremer.
All right, one final one. You also mentioned that we're going to work closely with the city on an IGA on some of those cleanups. And I will tell you, as the commissioner from an area that is mostly within the city limits of Colorado Springs, we have many occasions where even the residents that live right there are very confused about which jurisdiction should be providing the cleanup. And so I'm glad to see that this is just another way that we're going to kind of forget those jurisdictional boundaries and just get something done. And we are putting money behind the ability to do that. I appreciate continued work, everybody from public works and engineering when it involves a floodway to community development. I appreciate the way we're working with the city to really, and in some cases, CDOT as well, state highways aligning. So I appreciate that, that there's not the finger pointing anymore. There's just the ability and capacity to get what we can get done. And it is quite an uphill mountain to climb, but I think this is one step closer to doing that.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner. Great comments. It looks like we have a series of mountain analogies today, so don't we? Which I don't mind at all, by the way. And I'll just close with some other comments. I already commented on the homeless side, but to some of the comments made by some of our commissioners already, I echo those comments with regard to the actual planning side of the work in this department. I appreciate the work that's being done to improve the process, to figure out how to go faster. Part of that, of course, is resourcing, so you're making the request, and I appreciate the fact that that is now in the proposed budget to the board here. 2 additional planners and some additional funding, and then also just working on these other things, like to the point that you made about we don't have to be perfect. We just need to keep going and pay attention, knowing that there's always going to be something that's not perfect. I think that is really appropriate because it's hard and difficult, and there's a lot of requirements, and stuff just gets overlooked because we're all humans. So I appreciate that kind of an approach with this as well. So thanks for that. And by the way, congratulations, if I saw that right, 2022 American Planners Association Merit Award. That's awesome. So congratulations to the team for receiving that.
Thanks, John. And on behalf of the team at Planning Community Development, thank you all very much for the support you continually give us. And it's a great team over there, and they're doing a lot of great work. I just can't thank you all enough for the support.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Just one last chance. Any other questions from any of the commissioners? All right. I think we're good.
And I would echo every single word said up here. We really appreciate our planning and community department and the great strides you've made.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Awesome. Thank you. All right. Let's see. Who is next? Veterans.
Good morning, Commissioners. Pete Carey, Director of Justice Services. With me today is Marshall Bosworth. He is our El Paso County Veteran Service Officers. In case you have specific questions. We've identified a significant staffing need for veteran services, and it's an appeals specialist / associate VSO. And if you'll allow me, I'll go through some quick slides and provide some information on that. Will I forward this? As you know, what we most notably do at Veteran Services is we navigate the difficulty of dealing with the Bureau of Veteran Affairs is for our veterans in El Paso County. We help them through the maze of red tape, and sometimes that takes months, sometimes that takes years. But it is a substantial hurdle to climb. I wish I had a better mountain analogy because everybody's using mountains, but it's quite a mountain for our veterans or survivors to climb as they deal with some of these issues. This slide shows the mandate and the Colorado Revised Statute for veteran service officers in El Paso County. But what I wanted to point out real quickly was the numbers of people that our Veteran Service Office in El Paso County deals with. I mean, we have over 92,000 veterans in El Paso County. Marshall and I think it's close to well over 100,000. On a monthly basis, they deal with anywhere from 6,000 to 8,000 client contacts, telephone calls, walk-in, things like that. And again, that second bullet from the bottom, over $18,000 annually for clients that use El Paso County Veteran Services compared to $9,200 for people that tried on their own. And again, year to date, we've received over $800,000 in payments for our veterans. We recently upgraded a VSO position to a supervisor position to help Marshall when he's not there and to take care of the veterans both at the office and at the Mount Carmel Veterans Center. So that's been really, really huge for us. We're very, very appreciative of county leadership allowing us to have that extra position. It was an upgrade from veteran service officer, so it wasn't an additional position. And this year, we also added a third admin tech to take care of all the front desk duties, both at Mount Carmel Center as well as our Veteran Service Office. In the past, we've had to rely on veteran service officers having to come up and do that duty as well as do their appointments. So now they get to spend more time with veterans. As I said, this request is for an appeals specialist who will also carry caseload when not handling appeals work. I'm rather amazed to find out that the waiting period to get in front of a judge with an appeal, a veterans law judge, is anywhere from 3 to 5 years. It requires constant maintenance and updates and preparation of those people so when the time comes, they're successful. And that's what this position would primarily do. I always thought, also thought that was a strong statistic, is about 30% of current federal appeal hearings in Colorado are just El Paso County veterans.
Yeah, before you go to the next chart, that's, well, you can just stay at this chart. That 25 to 30% of current federal appeal hearings in Colorado are El Paso County veterans. That's amazing. That's a big number.
Yeah, our number is huge. And this is, I'm proud to say, I thought of throughout Colorado as a garrison community. This is where people want to retire. This is where people want to come and live after they do their service. So I was pretty struck by that also.
Yeah. Thank you. And also on the second bullet, no need to go back to the chart though, 3 to 5 year wait for a client to have a hearing with a veterans law judge. If I could just ask, is that a shortfall from the VA having sufficient law judges, or is that a little of us having sufficient resources to process to get to a law judge?
My understanding is it is a bottleneck at the federal level, and I think they're working hard to try to up that number. Which will ultimately affect us either way. But I believe that the number is a very small number of people working this process in this system at the federal level.
Okay, that's really interesting to me. I would, I'd like to have either a conversation with you or a conversation, with the county staff. That sounds like something we should take to DC and talk to the VA about getting some extra assistance here, because a 3 to 5 year wait is insane. That is insane.
It's way too long. 3 years is bad.
That is way too long. And maybe, working with our lobbyists or working directly with the VA or something to one effect or another, we could maybe try to get that improved.
Yes, sir.
Let's take that action and do something proactive about it going forward.
We will.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Some of you may have heard of the PACT Act, which is going to have a significant change in access to veterans benefits. It's going to have a significant impact locally. We're already starting to see it. As of a couple months ago, before the PACT Act was signed, we had about a 3 to 4 out period before we get someone scheduled in the office. It's already up to 6 weeks, so we're keeping a close eye on that. That will have a lot of impact in coming years, the number of VSOs that we're going to need for customer service and excellence. If you wanted to hear more about the PACT Act, that's kind of why I asked Marshall to come along. It's rather complicated, but he's here if you want to hear some more about it. Since 2021, 72 increase in appointments for El Paso County Veteran Service Office. That's a lot, and we have not had an increase in veteran service officers. So this dual responsibility of an appeals specialist as well as a person that can take care of our veterans will help out a lot.
And just a quick question on that. That's an amazing statistic as well. A 72% increase over a single year. I mean, I think if I'm seeing that right, from 2021 to today.
It is, and Commissioner, I'm not exactly sure what the impact of COVID was. There may have been a kind of a reduction before that, but we're getting hammered pretty good over there right now.
Oh, got it. Thank you. Yeah, that could be.
This request is a little bit over $60,000 all in for an appeal specialist that can also do casework. And I'm finished. Any questions, comments, or concerns?
Yes, Commissioner Williams.
Yes, I want to share a conversation I had with Congressman Doug Lamborn last night. It was very interesting. So this is how much we appreciate our Veterans Service Office. He said that when they were open during COVID, there were many offices that weren't open at all. And some of these offices are still closed today, 2.5 years later. Many individuals know, for those who don't, is that the Congressman's office can help with local claims to the Veterans Administration. And to have those offices closed, he kept his open to help people in other congressional districts because word would get around as to who they could call. And so with us having our own office here for almost 1/7 of our population, that is just so wonderful. And we always appreciate so much how much you do for El Paso County and Marshall as well for the state, because we know that we're the envy of many other counties for our Veterans Services Office.
Thank you. And I'll
thank
pass
you
that
very
on.
much.
I'll pass on to the VSOs. And Marshall, I'm fortunate to have him overseeing that. He has some statewide responsibilities, some national responsibilities. He's kind of like the Tony Soprano of Veteran Services, I guess. You know, he's pretty connected, connected all over the country.
Kind of like, if I heard right, you know, like Tony Soprano. Is that what I heard? All right. Any other comments or questions from any? Yes, Commissioner Geithner.
I will just comment also that really grateful for the fantastic work that the county does and that all of the employees do in order to support our obviously very large veteran population here. But I feel like I would be remiss if I did not mention that I am still saddened that they need this much help to navigate what is a very difficult federal system for our veterans to access their benefits. So I'm grateful that this is coming forward as a request and that we are doing everything that we can, but continue to wish that the federal government would, really step up and do their part to make sure that our veterans, they deserve the care that that they worked very hard for, that they sacrificed so much for. And so I continue to hope that we can push that along in any area that we can, as well as support on this very local level. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. I appreciate everyone's comments. And I'll actually echo that point about taking so long in trying to work with a big, gigantic bureaucracy called the Veterans Administration. On the one hand, I appreciate that they're there helping veterans. On the other hand, I think they've got an enormous amount of work to do to become more efficient. And I won't get into the specific procedure, but I got my regular medical checkup, and there was a referral from that checkup to do one additional check, but Evans Army Hospital could not provide that, so I had to go to TRICARE. What the procedure is not important. Well, that was 6 months ago, and I can't get TRICARE to tell me who I'm supposed to go to, and I can't get anybody to call me to help make an appointment, and I have no idea who to call. So I keep calling TRICARE, and the wait times are about an hour. And then they tell me that they've sent a referral, and then I call the medical facility that supposedly got the referral, and they never got it. And what TRICARE says is that company that's supposed to get the referral, they're supposed to call me. No one ever calls. It's a mess. The bureaucracy that they have, it just basically doesn't work. And it's because of that we end up getting huge numbers of phone calls in our Veteran Service Office, because veterans are not receiving what you would consider to be kind of a standard measure of care through places like TRICARE and so forth. I think it's a giant, giant mess. And I think the issue is not so much about having a lot of money involved in it. I think the issue is there's so much bureaucracy, and they actually need to get smaller and get more efficient as opposed to getting bigger. So I just make that point. I'm a recipient of this lack of speed in their providing health care as well.
I couldn't agree more, and your point as well as Commissioner Guyton, there's the complexity of what these people deal with day in, day out. I go over there and listen to the different types of forms that the feds need for this specific thing, and it's almost like you need subtitles to understand it. And when someone walks in off the street, or as a family member or a dependent, it is tough and it's complex, and I wish it could get simpler. It's a system that we're trying to deal with, and it is tough.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and I think it kind of, for me, speaks a little bit on a basic principle about when government tries to provide a service like this that probably is I would say is most likely much better provided by private industry. This is what we get. This is an example of that. So anyway, thank you. I appreciate all that this office is doing to help our veterans.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right.
Good morning / afternoon. I think I'm right on the edge there. Thank you for this opportunity, and thank you and kudos to Nikki and her team for all the effort they put into the budget. It really is. I've learned a lot about it in the last year, and it's very complex and detailed, and also their support that they give to my department. So I will promise to be brief. Real quickly, just an overview of Community Services Department. We've got the Environmental Services, Park Operations, Recreation, and Extension. And you can see some of the things that we do there. I also wanted to bring out the new strategic plan and some of the goals that we've addressed to that new strategic plan. You can see there we're working on our master plan. You'll hear more about that soon, but really tying that together to the infrastructure. Service quality, that's something that all our critical need is addressing, and that is trying to make sure that we have the people that we need and the areas that we need for the service quality out east. Community trust, tracking that customer satisfaction. We want to make sure that we're doing what we said we're going to do and we do it well. And then health and safety, we're expanding our programming to make sure that we're providing those activities and resources for our residents. Just real quickly, some of our operating indicators. We do know that parks are a little bit hard to measure, and so these are good things for us to look at to make sure that we're quantifying some of these components. I'm very happy with the numbers, and I can tell you we exceed all of these year after year after year. Some highlights for 2023 that we're looking forward to. The Trailability Program has obviously been a hit. You've heard about it, and you'll hear more about it next year. We're continuing to work on the Ute Pass Trail. That's a multi-year project, but really I think is going to be a legacy for the Pikes Peak region, and knowing that that trail goes from Colorado Springs up to Woodland Park and potentially around Pikes Peak. Paint Mines Interpretive Park, that's one of the ones I'll talk about today. Fox Run Nature Center, the plan is going on. The barn is being constructed as we speak, which is exciting. And we'll also look at some of this funding request today to do some of the Homestead Ranch improvements. And then Widefield Community Park down south is also going to be seeing some improvements this next year with a grant. So our critical need and justification for this year is really the rapidly growing section of eastern El Paso County. We just can't keep up. And we've realized, I think in the past, we'd always say, well, there's not that many people out there. That's not the case anymore. There are a lot of people, and there's a lot of people continuing to go there. The Paint Mines has just expanded dramatically. We just got a request from a international company doing maps. And they wanted to have, of all the places in Colorado, they wanted a map of the Paint Mines, Garden of the Gods, and Rocky Mountain National Park that they were going to be putting in their publication. Now, I know we're not Rocky Mountain National Park, but it's pretty cool that we're in that mix. And so the use of the Paint Mines is just, we're struggling to keep up with that. The other thing that they've done a great job of is the Falcon Regional Park. We don't have a lot of parks with baseball diamonds in it and fields, and so that takes a lot more maintenance than our other parks, and so we're recognizing there's a need there. And then the Fair and Event Center. We've encouraged them to be outgoing and add programs and events, and they've done it. But with that comes additional costs, and so we're trying to keep up with the needs there too. You can see just a brief list of some of the things and locations that the East District deals with out east. There's a lot of open spaces that not a lot of people know about, but we need to maintain them and we need to monitor them. So the outcome for our critical need is to fund solutions. We're looking at contract labor for cleaning, mowing, event support, and making sure that we're taking care of what we have. We've got so many things going on out there, we're not able to keep up with it. This is not part of the critical needs, but I wanted to bring attention to this, and that is our third-party funding. Very proud that we bring this in. We've been doing it for years, and we will continue to do it, and one of my goals is to continue to grow this third-party funding. But for instance, park operations, 1.4, that's through the Conservation Trust. Household hazardous waste, the tipping fees brings in money. CSU extension brings in money. Our fees for field rentals and pavilions brings in funding. So third-party funding for us is about 45% of our budget, which is pretty neat. So if you go back, just look at our base budget. Here's what we've got. We've got a little over $4 million. We're just looking at $160,000 for the critical need to help us in the East District. So brings it up to about, for park admin, about 3.1. I told you I'd be quick. Questions
Okay,
or
questions?
comments?
Yes, Commissioner Williams.
So
You're
the
contemplating, there
third-party
you go.
funding, does that count against our tabor limitations?
Some does and some
does.
doesn't, I believe.
Okay.
So yeah.
And I'm curious on the baseball fields. I heard about a different grass that needs less water that's over at the Mesa Conservation Center. It's called blue grandma grass. It doesn't need as much water and doesn't need as much mowing. The question is, it might be worth exploring to see if you could use that for the baseball fields to decrease the mowing. I don't know if it is appropriate for the sport of baseball or softball. So
I don't know either, but that's something we'll look into, and we're continually looking at water use, and that's something that's expensive, and how do we cut down on that? I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, and at the moment you can't buy sod. You have to use, you have to seed it. But hopefully in a few years we'll have someone who can make the sod and we can sod things. But it sounds like a very good alternative.
Thank you.
Yes, Commissioner Gonzalez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I appreciate all the hard work you do, especially it is a limited budget and for the great parks that we do have. One of the questions, just because it came up on the side, but since you're here, Willow Springs ponds. I know the ponds are spring fed, and so there's not much you can do. But it looks like it's continuing to go down even lower and lower. Is it just due to the spring fed, or is there some sort of leakage or something that needs to be addressed?
It is not. It's just the water level, the water table in the area. And there's not much we can do, but there's something we can do. And so we're trying. We're trying to look at, water rights is pretty messy business, but how do we fill at least the bigger pond and make sure it's maintained? And then down the road, maybe we do just limit it to one pond. So all those things are being asked and looked at right now. But yeah, it's kind of sad, that second pond.
Right. Okay. And then while it's not looking as beautiful as it normally is, if there's anything else you can do for any others, I know there's some dead tree limbs, et cetera, to take care of it, keep the park as pretty as possible with the, to the public, hey, we are trying to do everything we can for that park. It's always been a great park. And again, the water levels are what they are. And it's not something, there's not a leak, there's not some issues. It's spring fed, and when the spring are flowing as slow as they are because of low water levels, it's unfortunate this is what we have, but it's not a fault of the Parks Department.
It is not.
Oh, yes, Commissioner Geithner.
So, of course, I'm very glad to hear about more maintenance and work being done on the eastern parks. Obviously, we want the entire county to be well taken care of, but appreciate the acknowledgement that, yes, we are growing very rapidly, and so there are those great needs to take care of parks. Really excited about the barns, but specifically, I know that those baseball fields are a little bit more challenging than some of the things that we have, but I want you to know that I continue to hear very grateful remarks from the community about the usage of those baseball fields and the continued excitement that there are those available to be able to meet the needs for sports, especially in the eastern side of the county. Also wanted to point out that regional park started a new event this year, which was the Falcon Kite Festival, and so continue to get great usage of those parks. It was a wonderful first year turnout, and we even talked about having to expand to the baseball fields. It was such a big event, so I really appreciate the work that is doing there to make sure that our eastern residents also have great options for their parks. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. And I have a meeting, I think, in 2 weeks with the Little League. Great partnership we have with the Little League out east, and they help us with funding and maintenance and everything for the field. So we're looking at how do we grow.
Great. Okay. And a few questions for me as well. I'm looking at chart number 4. We don't necessarily have to go back, but if you would like to, that'd be fine.
You can.
And I'm looking at kind of just some overall indicators. You certainly have some great indicators here about how many customers and hazardous waste and park volunteer hours. By the way, on park volunteer hours, I just want to specifically say thank you to the volunteers for helping with the parks.
Absolutely.
The county fair attendance, excellent, robust. And then these nature center participants. What is the sense of what's going on with participation in county parks, say like during COVID and now here in kind of a post-COVID era, and what are the projections for increased usage? So it's a little bit of a question of kind of, are we seeing a lot more usage, and to what extent is that? You've got some numbers in here, but not necessarily a relational number to a previous year or anything like that.
Good question. And we don't track visitation to a lot of our parks. It's complicated to do that, but national organizations do. And I certainly can tell you our impression of what's happened. And we all know that during COVID, huge increase of use. And most of that was individuals or families getting out. And now we're seeing individuals and families still doing that, but now our increase of sports. And so the group setting, so our pavilion reservations have gone back up. And so it's kind of like we saw this climb with use, and it is continuing to go up. I think we're going to continue to see that. And I think outdoor spaces in the Pikes Peak region are going to be extremely valuable down the road. So.
Great. And then I thank you for that. And then also, one of our small parks, I think it's only 4 acres in size, Rainbow Falls, just west of Manitou Springs in my district. I know that when we started operations there, we were either manning it with staff or with volunteers, and the purpose for that was to make sure that the graffiti people didn't come back. So are we still manning that park? One of the interesting aspects of manning the park, either with a volunteer or with staff, was we could actually get numbers of people going in and out. So I don't know if you might have statistics on Rainbow Falls, because during COVID, it was insane, the number of people going in there.
It was early. We had some issues at Rainbow Falls with rocks falling off of the cliff, and so we're addressing that as we speak. And so it was not able to be open for a big part of the summer this year.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
We're still doing groups, and so just had a group of Carter College geology students that went up there. So if we can manage the use and bring them in on the side, we've been doing that.
Okay. Well, if you wouldn't mind, maybe if you could come see me at some time in the near future and tell me what the plans are for Rainbow Falls.
I've got some neat plans, so I can tell you about that later.
I'd love to hear about them. All right. Any other questions or comments?
I just have one more question. I noticed the proposed Parks Master Plan on the website. When is that going to be approved by us?
It's coming. We are presenting to the Planning Commission, I think this Thursday, and then we will be bringing it to you informally and then bringing it to the board, I think in the next week after that. So it's all lined up. So we're coming.
Thank you very much for your hard work on that, and thanks for your staff too.
Thank you very much. Thanks for listening at noon.
Thank you. Appreciate that very much. All right, Nikki, do we have anybody else, or is that it for today?
Commissioners, thank you for everything today. That is everything that we have for today. We'll be back on Thursday. We have 9 additional presentations for you on Thursday from other departments and offices. As always, we invite public comment at any of these sessions. I'm not aware of any public comment today, but if anybody would also like to reach out to myself or any commissioner, again, invite that comment. So thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. All right, I believe that concludes our budget hearing number 2 for today. Also, I believe we have completed item number 11, which includes the executive session. I think 10A, are we concluded with 10A? Yeah, that's right. So 10A is concluded, and I think 11 now, which includes the executive session, that was an addendum, that is completed. And I guess it's a formality to go through item 12, but the next item is 12.
Item 12 is the executive session, which was considered under item 11 as an addendum.
Okay, great. And seeing no further business, this meeting is adjourned.